live?
It will appear up on the screen and should be any second now.
Yep, now streaming live on YouTube.
Okay, have at it.
All right,
Uh,
I'm gonna call the meeting to order. Roll call. Jack Erickson.
I'm here.
Sharp Over.
Here.
Michael Crouch. No. Bobby Olson, no. JD Arman, no. Jim McNally, no. Lucy Jansema, yes. So we have right now 3 members of our 1, 2, 3, 6, 7 member board or commission. Do we have any citizen comments? Do we have anybody logged on, Scott?
I don't see anybody yet.
Okay. So we have no citizen comments. I don't think 1, 2, 3, 4. We don't have a quorum, so we can't approve those minutes that Jack worked so hard on to get correct. So if you guys have your agenda, we will go to the old business, the zoning ordinance amendment and comments of the Cumberland County Planning Commission. The ordinance is scheduled for adoption by the Newville Borough Council on June 30th, 2020. And that has to do with the signs that people can put up. And I thought that the county comments, it's the name of the amendment is Amendment to Signage Ordinance for Prohibited Signs. I thought the comments from the county, I just like the way they were stated. It says the proposed amendment is consistent with the 2017 Cumberland County Comprehensive Plan that encourages municipalities to protect community character. I thought that was stated it very well, so I appreciated that. All right, any comments on that? Jack, Sharp?
No.
Nope, okay. All right, so we are moving right along to the new business, which is the presentation of Newville Borough Zoning Ordinance Rewrite by Troy Truax of Michael Baker International. I just want to give a little bit of a history. The last time the zoning ordinance was revised was in 2000. It's on backwards. Well, anyway, it was revised in 2000. And at that time, there were amendments, I think dating back to at least 1995, that were not incorporated into the zoning ordinance. And since it had been, I think when we started, 18 years, the Planning Commission was given the option to hire someone to do it for us in conjunction with us, or we could do it ourselves with Matt McKnight being our basically taking our ideas and writing them for us. Oh, hi, Bobby. We decided we would do it ourselves as the Planning Commission. After a year and a half, we had gotten to chapter 3. Kirk came on board to help us. He was willing. I think he would have worked with us, Kirk Stoner from the Cumberland County Planning Commission. I think even if it had taken us 5 years, he would have helped us, which it looked like it was going to. So it was suggested that we maybe hire a consultant or a certified planner. Is that what you are, Troy?
Correct.
Okay, to do this. And so at a council meeting, we interviewed 3 different companies, and pretty much, we chose Michael Baker International. Troy Truax was the presenter, and I he we really thought that he would be our best bet on that, and he asked for a task force consisting of borough council members and planning commission members. So on the task force are Scott Penner, who's the chairman of the or the president of Borough Council, Jack Erickson and Michael Crouch, who are both on Borough Council and on the Planning Commission. Myself, I'm the chairman of the Planning Commission. We also have Matt McKnight, our solicitor, Kirk Stoner from the Cumberland County Planning Commission, and Troy Truax, who's doing the well, Troy and Kirk, Troy doing the actual work for us. So that is the task force. And we've met a couple times, of course, in the pandemic by Zoom. Last Tuesday, Scott, Matt, Kirk, Troy, Jack, and I took a 2-hour tour of Newville. We really wanted Troy to see the things about which we were speaking, like Bob Over's compost pile. You know, it was important, we thought, for him to walk past it and see just, you know, what the town was, and to see the creamery, and to see the, the old state police barracks, which is now Barracks Trucking Company, just to get a feel for the town. And so we did that last Tuesday from like 9 to 11. And it was good. So if there are anybody, please correct me if I've misrepresented anything on this.
No, you got it right.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to turn this over to Troy to give us a presentation of how we got to where we are and what we've done, just briefly, since we started.
Okay. Can you everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
I got a little thunder going on in my background window here, so if you hear the rumblings. So I'm trying to get my, just to give it a second here, get my screen going. Now, do you see, there we go. Should see the presentation there, correct?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
so I'll just walk through. Thanks, Lucy, for the introduction, and just a little bit more background, not too much, but again, Troy Truax with Michael Baker International. We're been providing engineering and consulting services such as this for Newville since 1940. So we're celebrating 80 years in business, which is phenomenal. We're based in Pittsburgh, but we have offices nationwide, including here in Harrisburg, PA, and some other localities like Charleston, West Virginia, Baltimore, and Alexandria. But I'm located in our Harrisburg office, which is just right up 81, of course. Just a little bit of background about me. Yes, I am a certified planner, project manager at Michael Baker, and I'm the technical lead on this project, really kind of the front end person. And then I've been doing this for about 23 years. Attended Shippensburg University, close by, of course, to Newville, both undergraduate and graduate degree. Kirk and I actually worked together for a time at Gannett Fleming, so I've known Kirk for a long time. He too is a Shippensburg graduate. I hail from Fulton County. I started my career off there as the planning director, emergency management, 911 coordinator, and then about in the late 90s, I came up here back to Cumberland County, kind of full circle from Shippensburg up to Carlisle. Got married to a local gal here, and sat on the zoning hearing board for Carlisle Borough when I lived there for several years, and then for the last almost 20 years, like 19, I've sat on the South Middleton Township Planning Commission. So I live in South Middleton Township, just right up the road here from Newville. So One of the recent projects we just finished up, which you might know about, is the Walnut Bottom Corridor Master Plan. So bring a lot of talents to the table for those types of projects. So we've got a lot of good local knowledge and experience to apply. And I'll give a hats off. Kirk and his team at the county through the GIS department and planning department have been really instrumental of helping out with this project. So I really appreciate Kirk and everybody's help and the task force's help to do this, because doing this type of work should not be done in a vacuum. It should be done in this type of open manner. So our project scope of work, this is what we submitted our proposal and what we're using to guide our process. We have 5 tasks. Project management and coordination is just ongoing, kind of managing the project and the time frame, making sure we're keeping on schedule and on budget. So that's my job, and plus the technical work too, but that includes the due diligence work. I'll talk a little bit about that. That's kind of all the background knowledge that we need to understand about the existing ordinance, the amendments, land use. The field tour that we took was really beneficial to that. And that kind of background knowledge and field tour and working with the task force really helps us focus on really making sure that we're looking at the current zoning map and determining what the future zoning map should look like. What new districts or modifications to existing zoning districts do we need to make going forward? And then that's going to place us in a good position where we're really starting now is the zoning ordinance rewrite process. And then like Lucy, you said, we've done task force meetings. And the nice thing is too, that this process, inclusive of Borough Council, Planning Commission members, Solicitor McKnight on the team, really helps with what I call staff development and training. So they understand how the ordinance was put together, the logic behind it. So I think that's, again, shows that we're not doing this in a vacuum. So some of the key considerations that we're looking at, again, the zoning amendments since 1995, Fred Potcher, Borough Manager, handed over a whole booklet, if you will, of those amendments that need to be incorporated, evaluating and updating the zoning map. We have to consider some additional zoning regulations, including regulations for the floodplain along the creek. And then also too, Newville Borough has a designated historic district. So we would need to include in certain provisions for historic preservation. And then both the floodplain and historic district would be pertinent to either the floodplain boundaries or the historic district in terms of what we would call overlays. There are additional regulations that add on or supplemental to the base districts, which we can talk about. And then also too, trying to think about in the spirit of economic development, of try to some of the economic development initiatives the borough has going on with its economic development advisory committee, and then trying to incorporate those types of themes and incentives into the zoning ordinance when we're doing the rewrite process. So our schedule, hopefully it's a shorter time frame than what Lucy said that they've been working on for the last couple year and a half or so. But we started in earnest here back at the end of April. COVID really didn't affect us much because we've used technologies like Zoom and Microsoft Teams, et cetera, to help get the process going and doing a good job of keeping the process on track so far. So overall, we would anticipate an 8-month period to get this done. That also includes what I call the zoning amendment process towards the end that would follow the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code. So the goal is that we have the task force that Lucy talked about thoroughly engaged in the process right up to the point where they're going to hand the draft zoning ordinance off to the Planning Commission. And at that point in time, that draft process would be go through the public review and comment period according to the municipality's planning code requirements, and then on to the Borough Council for their public review and comment period and adoption with also according to the municipality's planning code. Lucy did a good job. This is our task force. Scott, Jack, Lucy, Michael, Crouch, Matthew, and Kirk are all collectively involved in this process. And so again, we've have done a good job of coordinating with a number of meetings already. The progress that we've made here, we've had 3 task force meetings specifically, beginning on April 24th, then continuing with one on May 7th, May 28th. Some of the background work that we've done, what I call due diligence, includes the zoning analysis, looking at the existing zoning, and I can show some slides on that here a little bit. Evaluated existing land use and building footprints to look at sort of the context and the form of the borough and the layout. And then we conducted that field tour to kind of pull all that due diligence work together and go out and do some field investigations to see the lay of the land. So that was very helpful, and I appreciated the opportunity to have that walking tour with the task force members last week. So once that's done, that's helped us focus on the new, what we call the draft zoning map. So we're taking the existing districts that are in the borough right now, 4 districts, and we've really kind of consolidated those into 3 very straightforward but very logical districts: a mixed use district, a village district, and a residential district. And I have a map, I can show that to everybody. And then we've already developed an outline for the ordinance itself. So it would, right now, it's going to provide 6 articles, which really consolidates a lot of the numerous articles that are included in the current zoning ordinance. So really trying to make the document more user-friendly, more efficient, and easy to administer. And that also includes having what we call a use matrix, a table of list of uses, and that are lined up with those 3 zoning districts that are being proposed in the draft zoning map. And then the other nice feature is we have a clearly defined standard list of uses that will be included in this new zoning ordinance. So the feedback that we've gotten from the task force has been great, very positive and supportive of the direction that we're heading in already with this rewrite. So our next steps is to start now literally putting pen to paper, drafting that zoning ordinance. We would do that by section, by those articles. So to make sure that the task force has an opportunity to digest each one individually versus trying to digest the whole document at one time, which could be a little daunting. And then continue on with the conversation with the task force through ongoing meetings to review and have a discussion on those sections. And then, like we said before, is at the end of this process is to have the public adoption, which would be inclusive of the Planning Commission and the Borough Council's public adoption process according to the municipality's planning code. So that would give the public ample opportunity to have review and comment on the new zoning ordinance. So Lucy, I'm just going to turn over here real quick. I got a couple other slides that might be helpful, just to show a little logic of how we kind of went through the process with some of our analysis. So I think everybody can see that. So this is the existing land use. Again, many thanks to Kirk and the county at the GIS department to provide this information. So this is what we call existing land use, really based upon the tax assessment of those parcels, of how the tax office classifies the parcels at the county level. So what you can start to see then is through the middle chart and the bottom chart, we evaluated those land uses based upon, in fact, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead one too soon, so I apologize for going back a slide. So this slide really, again, just clearly shows and demonstrates the existing land use. The color coding at the top is the various types of categories of land uses. You can see in the middle part of the screen, you'll have where the village district, kind of the core area of Newville. The northern part of that is where like the Little League fields are, the complex. You have some commercial businesses in the north end. Also, the Legion is there with some residential. The Newville Park is there at 4 West Street. And then to the eastern side is you have kind of a mixture of industrial in the purple, where the ribbon mill used to be, or building is, the creamery, now where the trucking company is. And all that red mixed in with that residential yellow is kind of an indication that you have these mixture of uses, kind of like in the northern end, these mixture of uses. And uses that are really coexisting in a harmonious way. They're very compatible. They're not, from what we can tell and what we've talked about, they're not having any disparity on residential uses, no nuisances that are occurring that's going to cause conflict. So I think as a core kind of community of Cumberland County, like Newville Borough is, you would tend to see these mixture of uses kind of tightly knit in smaller lots and working harmoniously together. So the ones in the northern end and the eastern end are kind of what we would say single uses in terms of like one building as an industrial building. The neighboring building might be just a commercial building. But downtown, you might have a mixture of commercial and residential included in the single building where you have them stacked on top of each other. So we call that vertical versus horizontal mixture of uses. And then on the southern end where Jack, you live, they're in the larger lots there along the creek on the southern side of the creek. That's where the current larger lot, sort of the low density residential uses exist. And that's kind of like it says agriculture, but really that's residential all through there based upon those lots. It's a subdivision, if you will. So you can see at the bottom, you know, kind of the based on acreage and parcels, residential is the predominant use in the borough. And then what we've done here too is to kind of analyze those land uses with the zoning. So trying to where the current land uses fit into the current zoning map, if you will. And that zoning is residential 1, low density, medium density is residential is R2, village zoning is V, light industrial is LI, and I is industrial. So the color coding on that middle chart represents the various land uses within those zoning districts. So you can kind of see the distribution of land uses and how they're integrated into those various zoning districts. And the table at the bottom starts to show, if you read to the left, it's the R1, R2. Those are the zoning districts on the left, and the land use categories at the top are the color-coded CR, CS, I, represent the various types of land use classifications in that top map. But you can start to see there's a distribution of those land uses across those zoning districts. So you can start to see like the village and the R2 there have a decent distribution of the uses. So you can start to see where kind of a mixture of uses are contained within those particular zoning districts that exist currently in the borough. So this is the current zoning map. So again, you can see the various zoning districts right now. I think I misspoke before. I think I said 4. There's actually 5 zoning districts. The light industrial in the red, industrial in the purple, medium density residential R2 is in the yellow. Then the low density residential is in the green, R1, and then finally village is in that orange in the middle in the core area. So we looked at, again, those previous maps looked at the land uses and context within which those zoning districts boundaries are. So the other thing we started to think about in our analysis with the task force right at the beginning, very first meeting, was some of these areas that are kind of used for public uses, like in the northern end is the Newville Recreation Center or the Little League complexes, coupled with the Legion facility. You had the Newville Park, also to the middle school. Extends into the borough from North Newton Township, just on the northern end of where the park is there on West Street. And then down at the southern end by the Ribbon Mill where the industrial zoning is, you have the Cumberland Rail Trail is there. That's the other what we kind of thought about as community recreation types of parcels. Then if we think about that, there's other types of what we would call community recreation or community use parcels. And these are inclusive of those ones that are shown in question marks. So you have the churches and the cemeteries on those locations there to the west, and then the 2 Presbyterian churches there on Cedar Street and over to the eastern part by the village, just below the mill is that's another Presbyterian church, right, Lucy?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So you can start to see you have these various types of sort of community recreation or sort of like almost like public types of uses sprinkled throughout the entire borough. Again, very common, and it's really kind of makes up the fabric of the borough itself, having these types of uses for public enjoyment, and really creates to the quality of life that Newville Borough has. So what we started to think about is that based upon the existing land use, based upon the existing zoning, we tried to look at what we call the form and function of these different areas in the borough. So what's shown on this is that to the western end of the borough, you're getting sort of in context to the downtown area where the village is, you're getting more larger lots, but you're getting more intense uses. But those uses, be it industrial or light industrial, really aren't existing, or they, I'll correct myself, they're coexisting within the existing residential uses. But as you may have remembered in the previous maps, this area, especially on the western end and northern end, they also have commercial uses that are either permitted by conditional use by Borough Council or permitted by right. They're filtered in throughout these areas, north and west of the downtown core area. So what it really started to think about was these really portions of the borough are functioning as a mixed use environment. So again, they're cohabitating, coexisting in harmony. There's nothing from a nuisance standpoint that's precluding an industrial, like a light industrial or a garage use, from operating across the street from a residential property. So it really works out well. So we think about trying to, how do we minimize the administration burden of having all these different types of zoning districts. One option that we've agreed to move forward with is to think about these areas as a mixed use type of zoning area. And then if we look in the center portion, we have the village and then the remaining R2, the remaining medium density residential. So what we thought about then too with that, this map shows at the top that orange boundary would be the remaining portion of that R2 that we just saw. And then the middle of that is the, in the red boundary is that village zoning district. But what that orange boundary almost represents is the boundary of the borough's historic district. So that's a designated district through the National Register of Historic Districts. But the Pennsylvania Historic Museum Commission has certified that and approved that historic district. And that really represents almost the boundary of that district. So if we think about where those historic properties are and where that boundary is in context with the existing village zoning, it really begged the question, should that entire area be zoned village? Should the village zoning itself currently be expanded to be encompassing of that historic district? And when we did the walking tour last week and through previous conversations, I think the task force, we unanimously agreed that that was that exactly is what should happen. And I know Fred Potzer, the manager, has a lot of history, and we did talk to him about these concepts, and he was fully supportive of the approach that we're taking here with these types of new zoning boundaries. So this map right here is where we're currently standing. We have 3 zoning districts from the original 5, the current 5. We have the mixed use in the green, and we have the village that again, that extends beyond the downtown area. And then you can see that sort of mottled or polka dotted hash that represents the exact historic district boundary. So it, in large portion, with the exception of just a couple parcels that's designated in that new village district boundary, almost that entire area, that new village district, is representative of the historic district itself. So that that polka dot is that historic district overlay that will be in addition to the regulations in the village zoning district. And then the final is the residential at the bottom. We're going to just keep, originally was R1, but we're not going to do any other than maybe doing some technical updates. So we're going to leave that district pretty much alone. We're not changing any kind of zoning boundary there. We're just simply changing the name from R1 low density to just keep it R, and just we'll still call it probably residential is probably what it will be simply called in that zoning legend down there at the bottom. The final thing I wanted to point out, there's a blue hash mark that follows the creek. That is the floodplain boundary, the National Flood Insurance, the digital flood insurance rate map. That is the current map that the county has been working on through the draft process with FEMA. So that represents what will be ultimately the new digital flood insurance rate map boundary for Newville Borough. So that would represent the floodplain regulations in the overlay district that will be included in your zoning ordinance.
Troy, may I
Yes, sir.
interrupt?
Yes, sir.
My land got removed from that floodplain
Okay.
3 years ago, maybe 5 years ago.
And
Change
where
it.
would your where would your property be then?
Mine is on Cedar Street, 16.
Cedar Street to Cedar Street 16.
Cedar Street, it turns sharp. It comes off of
Oh,
and off of Vine, and it's at the point on that street.
so let me just zoom in here. Oops. And Kirk's on the line because Kirk, you might. So Cedar Street, can you see my cursor on the screen?
You talking to me or Kurt?
Well, both. I guess just trying to make sure I have the right area. Is this your property right here?
I'm back to your first page. I see nothing.
Oh, got it. I was just a second here.
Hey, Sharp, did you get a elevation certificate or a letter of
Yes.
map for your property?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So Troy, I think, the boundary is still going to show his property in, but there's documentation showing that he's out. So the map can probably stay the way that it is.
Okay,
Yes, other
cool. As long as I'm fine then. Sorry, Troy. Keep going.
Nope, that's okay. I'm glad Kirk was here because I couldn't answer the question. I knew they were in the process of doing that, so I knew Kirk would have the right answer for us. So that's good. So I'll just leave it open for any other questions. I hopefully that Lucy, that you as chair gave you and your body here, your commission, a good overview of what we've done so far and where we're headed.
I think so. I think that I do like seeing that map. I'm wondering if I'm going to go out and walk that little triangle that we did not include in the village district, just to see like Bear. I think it's Bear and Washington Street. Do you know where I mean? Out behind the church where we met.
Oh, right here.
Well, I have your original intro page up. I don't have a map.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It literally is almost a triangle, but the historic district does, based upon the interpretation that Kirk and I had of the hand-drawn boundary on that black and white map from PHMC's letter, it definitely does encompass Washington, Bear Street, Fairfield, and the portion of Springfield.
Yeah, can you put that map up?
Yep, I'll do that. I'm sorry, I thought I was sharing the screen there. So, yeah, so that would be you can see it there where the V is on the lower right.
Can
You see that?
Can you zoom in?
Let me try. I'm not sure if I can. There we go.
Yeah, I kind of want to walk out there or drive, probably walk, and see
Yeah, it's right
difference.
here.
Yep, I wanted like to see because we talked about that when we walked past there, and I don't know. I'm almost thinking for consistency.
Yeah, it's right here.
Yep, that
It's right there.
maybe it should be included, but
Yeah, if you said yes to include it, I think I would tend to agree because that if you look at the lots and the way they were laid out, it does kind of give you kind of a sense that it's part of the village. And if it's now showing in that historic district for sure, which we are confirming, then it might make logical sense to pull that in, Lucy.
yeah. So I just want to go see. I just want to go see it before I um, uh, you know, make up
Yep.
my mind. But
Yeah,
I do
and
want to add just one other thing, that walking tour was Troy's idea. It wasn't ours. Just that, as I recall, that was part of your original presentation to do that.
Yep.
And uh,
Yep.
I think it was really, really good to,
Yeah, it really helped with, you can look at maps all day long, and Google Earth is great, and the county parcel mapper online is great, but nothing replaces a good shoe leather express walking tour, right? We got our exercise. We got out of our COVID quarantine for a little bit, which was great. It was
Yeah,
all
well,
safe too, right, Lucy? It was all done in the spirit of safety, so we didn't
well, yeah,
violate
we
any.
did. We distanced, and I wore my mask till I couldn't do it anymore. And well, after an hour and a half of walking, it was like, oh, you
Yeah,
know,
and we just got done in time before the storms hit, so that was good timing.
perfect. Yeah,
Okay.
yes. Um, Sharp, Bobby, Jack, does anyone else have any questions, comments?
No, I think it's a good representation of what we talked about and where we wound up.
I don't have anything. I know in the beginning when I just signed on a little late. You were saying it's going to be taking about 8 months to finish.
Right. Let me go back to that. I don't think I have that presentation up, but yeah, probably start to finish it will be about 8 months, because that also should include the adoption process, which typically is about 3 months, because you've got a period of time where the planning commission has to advertise for like 45 days, and then the borough council has an additional period of time where they've got to put it out for like the public comment before they adopt it. So yeah, there's about a good 3-month period there where it's just the public review and adoption process. So yeah, 5 months. I'm really hopeful quite honestly, by the end of this summer, by August, I got to push myself, but we can have this thing getting a good draft ready to go.
Well, that's just crazy because I know how long it took us to do stuff. So, and that's incorporating the amendments, and
Right. Yeah.
and he's working from a floppy disk that Matt had, and that's just pretty amazing I mean, that's what our old zoning ordinance was on, a floppy disk. I think, is that correct, Matt?
Yeah, it was. Those floppy disks are now long gone. I was able to pull them off there.
Yeah,
So
Matt got me the hard copy, so I've got the PDFs of all that information. So that's good.
Yeah. Okay. Any other comments or questions? Bobby, do you have any others? Are you good? Okay.
I'm good. I was on mute. Sorry.
No, I saw your head. I could hear it. Oh, there we are. All right. So thank you, Troy.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, I hope we'll see you again at another meeting.
We will. We will.
I don't know how long we'll be doing virtual, but when we have our planning commission meetings, I want to live stream them, because this is important to the town, even though the town is not focused on it. It is, affects everyone who has a business here, lives here, owns property here. So thank you. And if you need to go, I get that. If you want to stay for the next 5 minutes while we adjourn, you can do that too.
I'll let you folks carry on your business.
All right. All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Troy.
We'll see you.
Thanks, Troy.
Bye. Thank you.
So I have in our packets, and Kirk, are you getting the agenda and the attachments?
I am not.
Oh, okay. I think I was going to.
I did that for a month or two, and then I didn't for this one.
Well, I'll make sure you do. hopefully. In there is the sign amendment that the borough is to approve on the Borough Council on June 30th. The Tri-County Regional Planning Commission newsletter, which I find very interesting. Do you see Jason Finnerty very often, Kirk? He's
No, he's in Perry County. You know, he's the Perry County planner. I talk to him every now and then, but I don't see him very often.
Well, that's too bad. I worked in Perry County, and I just thought Jason was awesome.
He is. He's a great guy. That's for sure.
Yep. So then the other thing we have in there, that's some interesting reading. I'm sure you all looked at it and read it. Is the notice to have this virtual meeting. So, what I do have a question for the members who are here. What do you think about meeting outside next month? Like either at the Borough Garage, at the park, at the pavilion, or are you more comfortable with this format?
Yeah, just as a point of information, we had the same conversation last night on the Borough Council meeting. We are on green status as of Friday, and it would be allowable to have an in-person meeting for the size of group that we are, as long as we follow the CDC guidelines. We had talked about doing it outdoors at the pavilion down by the in the park, but one, the park's closed, and two, it's not enough space to actually remain safe distance from each other. We had talked about having it done at the municipal garage. That's possible. But I think there was a fairly strong consensus that if it's okay to continue doing it for the time being remotely, we would like to do that. And that was kind of the decision that was taken. One of the things Scott was going to do, I don't think he's still on the line, although his pictures here, was to assure that there could be live involvement from people that were listening, so that they would be able to actually talk into the meeting. Yeah. Oh, he is there. There he is. Maybe you want to
Surprise. The only thing, Lucy, you're familiar with the methods of communicating from the public. The only thing we were going to add was if somebody actually virtually wanted to be on the Zoom meeting, if they gave us their email address ahead of time, we would be willing to bring them into the Zoom meeting, and they could participate during, public comment and actually be a part of the meeting. I'm sure you understand there's security reasons why we don't want to let everybody into the meeting. But this was, if somebody felt passionate enough that they needed to address the council, this was a way to do that. And so there's now 4 ways that somebody could communicate with the council.
I like that idea. I will send you my email address.
All right, we'll send it to Fred.
Okay, send it to Fred. Bobby, what's your thoughts? Because you're pretty much
right now we're still in lockdown 28 days until after Friday. So I tell my staff they can't do anything, so I probably shouldn't until we're completely starting to reopen. So I can do Zoom. I mean, this is much easier for me, even though it's still late. But hopefully it'll get easier at work, and I can even do this from work actually now.
Sure.
There.
Well, then I think I hate for Jay not to participate, but I think then we will.
Can we not get him an iPad? Just he can use one of our. I mean,
well,
do that.
Scott said he would hook him up at the. I don't know. Give him an iPad. Where would we get that?
I have an older Samsung one. Maybe I can do it with that one. As long as he has internet, he'd have to have internet access, wireless or something.
Well, I don't know if he has Wi-Fi. I know he's hardwired in because he has a computer. We'll
Would he
check.
be just a call in?
Well, he said he wouldn't.
Okay.
But we'll see. Maybe I
Okay.
can talk him into it. So
Yeah. If he's got a computer, he can be on, he can do the Zoom
I
thing,
don't
right?
think he does though. Yeah.
I mean, he just has to download the app and
yeah, I don't know if that'll happen. Um, and Michael's not here, but and I'm sorry I missed last night's meeting. I don't know what I was thinking. Okay, so then let's just go go Zoom. If Scott, if you'll host it again, let's just go with Zoom for July. Does that, do we have 1, 2, 3, we have 4 members out of a 7-member, so we have a quorum now. Good. All
That's
right.
July
Go
what?
back. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's July what?
July 8th,
At 7, right?
correct.
Okay. I'll set
Um,
that.
and
I was just going to say, you have a quorum now, so if you want to do the minutes, if you all have the minutes.
well, I neglected to email them out,
Oh, okay.
so we'll do
Never
that.
mind.
We'll do that next meeting.
well, it's my fault for getting them to her so late.
No, it's all right. I understand.
No, it isn't. Bobby, we miss you. That's just saying.
Oh, I actually miss you guys too.
Please don't miss any more meetings.
Yeah.
That was the first night that COVID started for me, and it's been still running strong. So,
No.
but yeah, well, the meeting minutes tonight are really short. So,
Yes, they are.
Yeah. Yeah, deliberately.
and I can sit here right at my computer and type it as we go.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice.
Yeah, so it's
But I will tell. Do you want to know who was here to begin with? Do you want to know who was?
I got you, Sharp, Jack, me, Matt, Scott Penner, Kirk Stoner, and Troy.
Yes.
Okay, I was actually here in the beginning. I just didn't say anything.
Well, yeah. We'll just now. Should I just email those minutes to everybody, or should I email them to Fred and let him? I will email March minutes to Fred so that they can come out with next month's packet. And Bobby, if you'll email.
I can email you, or I can email Fred.
Email Fred, please, and then he can get them out to us. Because if you email me, we'll be here next month going, well, I didn't do it. So that'll be great. And we'll get them to Fred ahead of the day of the meeting. It'll be great. And Kirk, I will make sure Fred puts you on the hard copy list.
Good. Sounds good.
And thank you for sticking with us. When I was doing that little history, I was like, that Kirk would have stuck with us. You would have for 5 years to get this thing done. So.
Now you guys are great to work with. I didn't get a chance to mention it either. I thought that our field tour the other week was excellent, and I learned a lot. And I told some of our staff and other people that's the way planning should be done. That we're working with the local community. You guys are bringing so much local knowledge and interest and passion to what you're doing. It improves the final product. So kudos to you guys for taking on the project and working so hard on, then sharing your knowledge with the consulting team with us to make a good product. So I really think you're doing a great job. I think the product's going to show it.
Thanks. And thanks for your participation. It's been very helpful.
And I did say to Troy, I do kind of regret that we didn't get down to the park and the on the west end of town, the community park, because that's where I walk now, because I don't walk through town since the pandemic. And every day it is immaculate. We have Kevin Yost, who takes care of the ball field for the now is taking care of like all the grounds, and it is just beautiful. We have a very nice park. It's going to get a permit. What's that surface? I don't know if Scott's muted, but the surface is called instead of having wood chips, it'll be
It's a poured rubberized surface. So it's it's a solid. Some people call it like a rubber carpet, but it's poured like concrete. Trialed and is a solid surface, but it's soft and cushy.
Yeah, when's that start? I'm so sorry I missed last night's meeting.
We're hoping we get started by the end of the month. So.
And I see the park opens on Friday.
So we'll open it for 2 weeks and then we'll close it again for 3. So yeah.
We'll see.
People will be real happy with us, but anyhow.
Oh well. So anyway, Kirk, next time you're in town, just take a drive out West Street and just check out, just park in the church parking lot and take a stroll through the park if it's open. And it's just beautiful. It's quite, it's a nice another very nice area of the town. Been improved, and council has, I think has just done an excellent job on improving it and keeping it up. So there. All right. Do we have any other? We don't have I didn't see a zoning officer's report. So do we have any other comments or nothing?
No, not for me.
All right. It's 7:53. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I don't have a gavel. I'll knock on the table. Thank you all very much.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Lucy.